Oh, today I'm making a rye sourdough bread. So first thing we have to do, I like to get everything measured out, and I'm using unmilled flour and rye. So I have my rye here, so I'm starting with 450 grams of wheat, of hard white wheat, and I'm going to do 100 grams of rye. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. So if it's too much rye, not enough rye, I figure we'll make a loaf, figure it out. Worst case scenario, we'll make another one later. So I have 100 grams of rye, and I'm going to add I'm going to bring it up to, it's going to be a total of 550 grams of flour. And it's nice because I can weigh the berries out. That's why I like to do everything in weight. I don't have to worry about conversions for unground wheat berries to flour, because those conversions, I've used them for years and they're not great. So I don't like to use them. It's much more accurate to use the weight, because you just measure it out, boom, you got it. And then I'm gonna measure out my yeast starter. I've got quite a bit of yeast going, because I'm gonna make several loaves today. But this one we're showing, so I like to wet the bowl a little bit, and then measure out 115 grams of, it helps if I tear this thing first. So I use another bowl, and want to measure out 115 grams. That'll do. So that's for that recipe. And then we'll measure out the water. We want to use hot water that comes out of the tap. Not too hot, but we don't want it, we just want it hot enough to, so it feels hot to your finger, to your hands, but not hot enough to be uncomfortable, because we don't want to kill the yeast, but we want the bread to get started. So I'm going to go mill that, and then we'll be back. Okay, we've got everything milled, and we've got our water measured, so we're ready to go. So I'm going to start the first part of the mixing. So I've got my rye flour and my hard white wheat berries all ground down into flour. So I got all that, 550 grams total. And then we've got 450 grams of warm water. And we're going to go and add our 2 teaspoons of salt. I like to get all this mixed in now, and then we'll let this sit for 15 minutes to autolyze. Just all that just means this flour is going to absorb all the moisture in it and hydrate up a bit. I have no idea how the rye is going to be with this. I haven't used it. I've used rye in beer before. I brew beer on occasion, and I like rye in beer. It really adds a nice note to the flavor. So, got that all mixed up, nice and shaggy. It's good and moist. Remember, fresh milled flour is going to use more water than regular flour. So, we'll get that covered and let it sit. And we'll be back in 15 minutes. All right, we're back. We've got our rye flour. It's been sitting for 15 minutes. So now Yeah, it's still nice, and so it's had a chance to absorb some water. So we're going to take it out and we're going to add our starter. So we've got 115 grams. Going to add that in. So basically we're going to start by kneading this. We're going to knead this in the bowl just to get that starter incorporated. And I'll set it on the counter here, so it makes it a little easier. We're just going to roll that in. Yeah, the starter is definitely a different texture, but we just want to get that mixed in throughout the dough so that that yeast can start doing what it does. And this will also help us get started with some gluten. Now, some people like to do it to the shaggy dough if they mix it completely, but I don't know. I think it works either way. I've done it where I've mixed all the ingredients together and just bring the dough together and then let it sit for an hour and then start the stretch and folds. And I've done it where I've mixed it all and done some kneading right away, and that seems to work okay. It's such an easy dough. I just don't think you can go wrong as long as you're mixing it. Basically, the main thing with this, it just needs time to do what sourdough does. All right, so now we've got that. I think it's pretty well incorporated. So we're going to add that, we're going to let that sit and do its thing. That dough seems to be pretty wet. I wonder if that's just a difference with that 100 grams of rye flour in there. So now we'll cover it. Let it sit an hour. Okay, we're back. It's been an hour and we've got our rye dough. So we're going to do the first stretch and fold. Yeah, this is a pretty sticky dough. Kind of wondering. A little stickier than normally I would do, so I might add some more flour to this. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it. Okay, we're back. It's been a half hour. Now we have our rye dough. I decided I'm not gonna add flour to this. I'm gonna let it go and just see where it ends up. It's kind of the philosophy of mine. It'll either work or it won't. So, it's very sticky. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's because of the rye content or if I made some mistake in milling my flour and shut it off too soon and left some in there. All right, so we're gonna let that go, but it is shaping up some gluten. So we're gonna go with it and see where it ends up. All right, here we are back to the rye, and it's starting to rise. I wonder how this is gonna bake up. This is very tacky. All right, we'll let that go for another half hour, and then we'll be back. Okay, here we are back with our rye. Yeah, it's not quite as wet as it was. So we'll see how this comes together. All right, I think this is going to be an interesting bake, at least. So we'll see where we end up. Okay, we're back. We've got our rye dough. You can see I've gotten a bit of a rise on it. There's some good air bubbles. So it's looking pretty good. At least the yeast is working. Oh, that doesn't feel nearly as sticky as it was. So we're just going to get this out. This is proofed up really good. Glad I didn't mess with adding more flour. I think that would have been a mistake. All right. And I have excuse me, my pastry scraper here. This dough's so sticky. It just automatically sticks to itself. Just going to stretch this out, and I'll try to roll this in, because I don't think any amount of handling is going to make this any better. I'm going to pull that in. All right. I think the next time I do rye, I will cut. See how that tastes, but I think I will cut the water back by about 50 grams from my regular recipe just to see how this goes. All right. So I'm gonna cover this. Now, I said before, I like to put a tea towel over these in a previous episode, but I don't think the tea towel was great because it dried out the back and that burned more. And I had done another loaf that I was giving away to some friends, and I didn't, it darkened a lot more on the bottom. And I find that if I leave this like covered, it will stay moist on the bottom and it won't set up quite such a shell. And then the bottom didn't seem to darken as much. So I think that kind of helped. So we're gonna stick this in the fridge overnight and then we'll bake it in the morning. So I'll see you then. All right, now we're ready to bake and take care of our 2 other loaves. I have one additional one besides the rye loaf we made, but you can see the rye filled up the pan pretty good. So transfer that over. So that's been sitting all night in the fridge. And I want to get this one. This is just a cinnamon raisin loaf. All right, we're going to give both of these a score. Just going to score this one right down the middle. This one I'm going to give the X. That didn't work. All right, and we'll get our pans out of the oven. They've been preheating. And I'll throw some ice cubes in, create a little steam. And back in the oven for 30 minutes. All right, now we're going to check and see if these are done. I took the covers off and left them for an additional 20 minutes. I want to see how the internal temperature is, because you usually want these about 205. right there. All right, so we'll get these out and let them cool. All right, well, it's been several hours. This is all nice and chilled now. So it's time to slice into this. Yeah, that's got a nice grain. I don't like the grain too open because I feel that it, all the butter just leaks through. But this makes it, looks good. That don't suck. That's a good rye flavor. It's nice and moist. It does spring back. That'll be awesome frozen. I'll slice it, finish slicing it, freeze it, and then I'll take them out as slice by slice as I want them and toast it, and it'll be awesome. All right, thanks for watching. Give it a shot sometime.